Rabbi Guth, what's happening? We are live. The TLC is live.
We're live.
Obviously, yeah, this is the first recording at least we're attempting to do and to talk about Pesach. I think that if there's anyone watching, they kind of understand that you're now connected to the Torah Learning Center and you're coming here from Australia.
Bezrat Hashem.
We plan to kind of like do a little bit more in-depth dive into who you are and hopefully convince everyone that you're not a crazy rabbi, and that you're coming to at least to get everyone excited that you're coming here to help direct the Torah Learning Center. But for the people that don't know, you you did live in Israel since you were like 18, correct? And then you went back to Australia for a few years.
Yeah, we've been here for about 6 years.
Wow. So it will be exciting to have you guys back.
Although I should say that somebody told me when we were in Pardes Chana that a condition for coming to Pardes Chana is to not be normal.
Oh
That's
yeah.
what I was told. I don't know if you were
Yeah.
there, but
I wasn't, but as long as you're eclectic and colorful, you'll fit right in.
we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. So we'll get into you later. I think that will be a lot of fun, especially when you come visit Pardes Chana. But I guess Tachlis, it'd be nice to talk about Pesach. It's coming up. And I had a few questions that hopefully resonate with the community and the group that we have going on now. But basically, my main question about Pesach is that it seems to me I didn't grow up religious at all and didn't really get involved with Pesach until maybe 26 years old or something like that. So 10 years ago. 10 or 12 years ago. Now that I'm like in it, it seems that it's really easy for Jews, even myself, to kind of lose track of things, like with all of the cleaning and stuff, and it feels like it actually enslaves a lot of people as opposed to when it's supposed to be kind of a time breaking free of your own limitations, your own constrictions and borders that you put on yourself, like your own Mitzrayim, your own Egypt. And I'm just curious, like your thoughts on that, and like, and how did that happen? Like aren't people supposed to be more strict with Shabbat and more lenient with Pesach? And it's completely opposite.
I mean, I know that when I learned for Smicha and we learned the laws of Shabbos, so one of the things that the rabbi told us, our teacher told us, is that when you learn the laws of kashrut, so you learn that a lot of the things that you thought were not kosher, they're actually fine. But when you learn about Shabbat, you learn that a lot of the things you thought were fine are actually problematic. And that was
Yeah.
definitely the case. So I think for maybe many people, it's Shabbos is a little bit of a mystery, and there's many things which maybe are yet to be learnt. But with regards to Pesach, the question you're asking is definitely, you're definitely not the first person to ask it. I mean, there's a reason why we wish each other Pesach kasher v'sameach, right? A kosher freilich and Pesach. It should be a kosher Pesach. Obviously, that takes a lot of work. You have to clean and you have to kosher and you have to, and you have to cook a lot. For many people, cooking every single thing from scratch. But it should still be a freilichen. It should still be sameach. You should still preserve the simcha. Um, it's definitely a
Ch-
challenge. It's a tightrope, but I think that maybe a way to approach it is that that's life. All of life is like that. Everything's hard work. Everything of value takes effort, and no pain, no gain. Or to say it like the Mishnah says it, lefum tsara agra. The reward is commensurate to the reward is commensurate to the pain.
but
You put a lot of
my
effort in, and you take a lot of value out.
but shouldn't I mean, the whole thing with Pesach and maybe like Judaism in general, it's kind of like a marathon and not a sprint. So depending on where you're holding, would it be better to kind of really fully understand where you or you and your spouse are holding, acknowledging that space, knowing that, like, we're not tzaddikim, we're not rabbis, shouldn't the main goal be to enjoy Pesach and to learn about it and to be fully like to own it as opposed to trying to be something that it's not. Meaning, like an example would be like, okay, the main thing is not to eat chametz, not to own chametz, you know, and not to go crazy with all of the cleaning and stuff. But I don't know if that's a good question or not.
It's a very practical question. It's a very real question. I'm saying it's very easy to get carried away with these things. There's no question that you have to be real. And if you're in a marriage, you're in a partnership, then you need to have an understanding between each other. You know what your standards are. Um, there's no question that a lot of the things that people do to prepare their houses for Pesach are above and beyond, and I don't want to minimize that. Meaning there's what you're basically required to do, and then there's all of the extra effort that you can put in, and it's one of the few things that it says actually in Shulchan Aruch. It says, these are the basic requirements. This is how you prepare your home. But the Jewish people are holy and customarily accepted upon themselves to go above and beyond and to sand down the table and to do things which really the letter of the law doesn't require. The Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev famously said that that I don't know if you ever noticed this, but when you blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, so there's a tefillah that you say afterwards where you ask that all of the angels that are created from the sounds of the shofar, and it has letters corresponding to the different sounds. So you have tekiah, trua, shvarim, but the letters are kuf for tekiah, shin for shvarim, and taf for trua. So it says from all of the sounds that rise up to heaven from the kashak and the karak. I forget the exact combinations, but from all of the different sounds of the shofar, they should all ascend, and they should break down all of the opposing forces and the negative forces. So the letters that spell them, kuf, shin, resh, kuf, kashrak, kashak, karak. That's what it is. Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev said, and I think this sunk into people's heads, and people really took it on board, that those letters, which is all the merit that we have, on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, is from the kuf, which is the kashering, the shin, which is the shuputzin, which is the polishing, and the reish, which is the reiben, the scrubbing. That all of the kashering and the polishing and the scrubbing that we do on Pesach, that's the merit, that's the sound that comes out of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, and it's that tremendous merit that stands for the Jewish people, on those high holy days, to be written and inscribed for a good year. So people take it very, very seriously. But you need to know what you're capable of. You need to know really where you're holding, and you need to know what's too much. Like the famous saying that dirt is not chametz and the children are not the korban Pesach. There's chametz
Right.
that has to be cleaned, but not every single little drop of dust is necessarily chametz that you need to go meshuga over.
Well, I just think that it's really interesting if you like take a step back and kind of look at Jews during this time period, specifically like here in Israel, just because, everyone here more or less is Jewish, that they go crazy over this. It's not every Chag I don't know, like I've seen different demographics. It seems to be consistent that everyone goes crazy over this Chag, and not only that, it seems to be I mean, maybe Hanukkah, but it seems to be the Chag that everyone does, no matter what, like goes to a Pesach Seder. So I mean, I guess it makes sense since it's at the foundation of the Jewish people and how like it got started with them leaving Egypt.
You're talking about Pesach in general, like making a Seder, or you're
Yeah,
talking about what
yeah.
you're talking about
Just
before?
just just Pesach in general, you
Yeah,
know. It's
Pesach.
interesting.
I think that I read somewhere that, once upon a time, not so long ago, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur used to be the most widely observed holidays, where people that didn't do anything the whole year, they would turn up on Rosh Hashanah and especially Yom Kippur. But now Pesach is the most universally observed mitzvah, the most universally observed of Yom Tov.
Why
Everybody
so,
wants
you
to be
think?
included in it. Sorry?
I was just curious why so? What has changed?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends why people rocked up for Yom Kippur. The simple explanation is that it's guilt. I'll do whatever I
Yeah.
want the whole year, and then because I feel guilty, I'll try and make amends on Yom Kippur. The Chassidic explanation would be that the deepest part of the neshama wakes up on Yom Kippur, and that's what brings you back. But when it comes to Pesach, I think it's something different. It's not just nostalgia. It's not just sentimentality, but there's a sense that this is the story that I'm a part of, and it's not just a personal thing. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, to a large degree, you go to shul, and you're davening for your own well-being, for your own good, sweet year that you want to have. Whereas Pesach, it's about the collective, it's about the nation, it's about the family of the Jewish people. And I think that maybe that's something which people feel more today in all kinds of different ways. It's expressed in all kinds of different ways, but I'm a part of this family. And the fact that it's something that we come together, our own families or friends or groups, or specifically my Jewish friends, maybe not my non-Jewish friends that I socialize and associate with throughout the whole year. But tonight, this is something that we as a family, as a Jewish people, that we share, that this is our story. And it's not even, I don't think it's that important, the actual subject of the discussion, because really, for the most part, Pesach is about being there. Like we learn in the Haggadah that there's all different types of children that are coming and asking all different types of questions, and the way that they relate to what's going on, there are those that are more there are those that are more cynical. There are those that are more interested. There are those that are more sincere. People engage on all kinds of different levels, but the common denominator is that we all want to be there, right? It's our business also to make sure that the people that are not there should also come and join. But it could be, I didn't read this anywhere or hear this anywhere, but since you're asking the question, it could be that really this is what speaks to our neshamas very strongly today, is that we're part of a story, and that story is being part of a collective, it's being part of a community, and that this is the night when we refresh and we renew and we revisit what it means to be part of that story.
So what about the Haggadah? Like, when looked at the Haggadah with Aryeh Pamensky, I don't know if you call him Rabbi Aryeh, but I think he's a rabbi. He is a rabbi, but I don't know if he wants to be called rabbi. I'll call him Rabbi Aryeh.
Rabbi Ari.
Yeah,
I think he's a
we
rabbi, yeah.
looked at in Caesarea and we were at his house looking at the Haggadah, and it's supposed to be like, not that it's supposed to be, but I think most people think like you sit down and you go over the story of the Jewish people leaving Mitzrayim, yada yada yada, da 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 da. But if you look at the Haggadah, it's not like uh a story of like start with the story and the story ends.
Mhm.
It's almost like you're looking at like Gemara. It looks like it's like coded and this and that, and it doesn't really make sense. And for me, it just seemed like, wow, it's like you really have to work hard at making this meaningful, because to make it meaningful, it seems to me that you really need to study the Haggadah, and the Haggadah isn't something that you can read. It seems that it's something that you have to study, which is the basic theme of Jewish books, in my personal opinion. Like non-Jewish books you can read and boom, but the Jewish book seems that it's something you have to study, and that's why it's just so hard to to make it part of you. It's not easy to study.
Yeah, well, I think you pretty much answered your own question. I mean,
Yeah.
you could just tell the story. You could just open up, the book of Shemais, Exodus, and just read through the story. But apparently that's not what we're supposed to do. We have oral Torah that's supposed to be hashed out and discussed and debated, and the sages really over many years constructed this very, as you said, coded, cryptic text, which in many ways stimulates more questions than it answers, especially if you read it superficially. And I think that that's an important point to remember, that really it's a night of asking questions, and the questions are more important than the answers, because the question reflects the extent to which you're engaged in what's going on. I mentioned this before, the four sons. So you have a wise son, you have a wicked son, you have a simple son, and then you have a son that doesn't know how to ask. And Eino Yoidea Lishoil, he doesn't have das. He doesn't have das to ask. I mean, maybe he's a little child. He literally doesn't understand anything. But what das means, what it literally means is engagement, is identification. It's just not interesting. It's not interesting to him. He's not bothering to ask a question. You have the chacham, the wise son. Obviously, he's interested. Obviously, he's asking all of the questions, and he's fascinated, and he's a goody two shoes, and he's wonderful. Next door to him, the second son is the Rosh, is the wicked son, who's cynical, and he sort of excludes himself as if he's sort of like detached and too cool for school. He's above it all, but he's still engaging. He's still thinking about what's being said, and he's being critical, but he's asking questions. He's engaged. So in a certain sense, he's ranked higher, right? The simple son asks, that's good, but he's not really getting into the fray, into the details. The one that's mentioned last is the one that doesn't ask at all. And I think that the reason why, or a reason, like everything in the Haggadah, there's no single explanation. There's a million different explanations. But one reason why the child that doesn't know how to ask is mentioned last is because if you're not asking, it means you're not involved. You're not engaged. You're not switched on. I remember somebody once told me, they described how every year they would go to their family for Pesach. They would go to their family for the Seder. And they were saying that I overheard them saying this to somebody else. They were saying that every single year, you know what a Pesach Seder is? Every single year you come, and it's exactly the same thing. It's exactly the same thing year in, year out. And they were describing it in a negative way. And so I was like, first of all, is it really such a bad thing? The idea that it's the same thing year in, year out. It's not just in your life, not just for the last 10 years or the last 15 years or the last 20 years, for the last 50 years. It's the last 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years. Jewish families have gotten together and they've done this. They've done this. Obviously, this particular text, this particular way of doing it emerged and crystallized at a certain point. But the idea that parents got together with their children and they sat around and the children asked questions and the parents, did their best to answer those questions, and they conveyed that this is what happened to us as a nation, and this is who we are, and this is what we stand for. That is that tradition, which is, it's the most phenomenal thing when you actually think about the fact that there's an unbroken continuum of this event happening every single year. Unbroken since the original events of Yetzias Mitzrayim themselves. So the same thing happens every year. But the truth is, it's also not the same. And it's not the same for many reasons. Maybe it's not the same because there's always going to be different things, right? If people are actually involved and people are actually asking questions, people are going to ask different questions. And those different questions will stimulate different insights and different responses and different ways of relating to things. That's one thing. There's going to be different people, and different people are going to come with their own perspectives, their own attitudes, and so on and so forth, which will change things ever so slightly. Or maybe like you, Sam, suggested earlier, maybe you studied the Haggadah more this year. Or you studied it differently. You studied it with a different commentary. You studied it, from a different perspective, from a different approach. So you're going to be engaging with it differently. Or even if you didn't, the one thing that's also constant at every Seder that you go to is you. But as much as that's a constant, it's also dynamic because you're different. This year you're married. This year you're a father. This year your kids are older, and you're having to engage with them and relate to them in different ways. So you're seeing things differently, and you're experiencing things differently, and everything's resonating differently. That's the experience. Like everything else, it's endless. It's bli gvul. It's every idea in Torah is infinite. It's ein sof. If it would be a simple story that we read from beginning to end, we'd also get bored of that. So we have a
Yeah.
text that tricks us and challenges us, and it says things which are contradictory, right? It says in every generation you have to personally view yourself as if you went out of Egypt. And yet when we start the whole Haggadah, we started off by saying, this year we are here, this year we are slaves, next year we'll be free, right? This year we're here in exile, next year we'll be in the land of Israel. And even those who are literally in the land of Israel, at the end of the Haggadah, we say, Lashana haba b'Yerushalayim. Next year we should be in Yerushalayim. And I think after 1948, in some Haggadahs, they added Yerushalayim habenuya, because it's not just about being in the physical location, it's about being in a whole rebuilt Yerushalayim, with celebrating Pesach the way it's really meant to be celebrated, in Yerushalayim, together with the Korban Pesach, and so on and so forth. So it's just it's an ongoing dialogue, and it's an ongoing process, and it's about us growing and maturing and becoming wiser. It's about our situation with our families changing. It's about our engaging with the learning, with the understanding in different ways. And it's a microcosm of Judaism. That's why the reboot of Judaism, the yearly reboot that happens, that's why it takes this form, as I think you touched upon earlier.
I have one last question. First of all, that was really interesting. So feedback is good. But I mean, it's true. Like
By
if
the
it
way,
was just like,
I'm one of the people that loves Pesach. Like
yeah,
it's my favorite Yom Tov. I love the Haggadah. I love the matzah. I love leaning to the left and drinking a little wine. I
yeah.
love it when the crumbs of matzah go all over my. I love it all. So
By the way,
I'm maybe
the
not the
leaning
best person to
thing
ask. You might have to find somebody who's a little bit more
thing has
someone
been
who's more jaded about
validated.
Pesach.
The leaning thing has been validated by, I think, Eastern medical practitioners. Basically, like when you lean to the left, it opens up your stomach. Most of like the paintings that you see from back in the day, the people
Mhm.
are leaning to the left
Yeah.
because it's easier to digest the food. And I
Yeah.
think Rambam
Also, I mean, and
mentions
also
that.
a practical reason is that people eat with their right hand, so they
Yeah,
lean to.
true.
That's one of
Um,
the.
Before I ask my last question, I do want to show off just a little bit. And I actually
Please
heard this from
do.
someone else. I heard this from, I believe I heard it from Yosef Malkin, who's a therapist, a Hasidic therapist in Jerusalem, and he's the
Great,
man. But
great,
yeah,
Rabbi Malcolm.
so when it comes to questions, and I'm gonna make fun of Israelis because I guess I am kind of Israeli as you, but when you become religious in Israel, it's ani chozer l'tshuva, like I'm returning to the answer. It actually should be ani chozer l'sheila, like I'm returning to asking questions, because the more you become, I guess, religious, closer to the Creator, closer to Judaism and Torah, you have more questions, right? And in Israel, when you become not religious, it's ani yotze
Yeah.
l'sheila, like I'm
Zel
exiting
b'she'ela. Yeah.
to the question, but it should be like ani yotze l'tshuva, like because people who I guess are not religious for the most part, they like have all the answers. Not to like
Yeah.
make fun of them or put them down, but yeah, a lot of them think that they have all the answer, right? So I
Well,
don't know.
I think it's yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's even more common amongst people who are religious and adhere to a certain, belief system, are pretty confident that they've got the answers. And I think one of the unfortunate things that I've sort of seen, also being involved with Bali Tshuva and just in general, you could be a seeker. You're seeking the truth. You're seeking meaning. You're seeking spirituality. You're seeking whatever it is, and you're striving, and then you find it. And once you find it, you're like, okay, good. I've checked that box. Like you said, I've got the answers. Now I don't have to worry about it. I can just relax. I'll turn up to the Pesach Seder each year. I won't even bother to ask the questions. But it's very easy to miss that because the answer is so real and so true. It's so like powerful. It's
Yeah,
very easy to sort of say, okay, well, I'm happy, now I've signed on. I've signed on to this. I've signed on to this,
this
to
like
this
room,
system, to
like
this belief.
you got to the room and you're just like, oh, okay, like I'm here. I arrived, but then you
Yeah,
kind of just hang out in the
yeah,
room, like on the sofa. I can totally
yeah.
relate.
I'm not bothered anymore, but we have to be
Yeah,
bothered. We have to be
yeah,
bothered, you know?
yeah.
The truth is, who's the chacham? Who's the chacham? In the Mishnah, it says, Ezehu Chacham, who's the wise person? Haloimed Mikol Adam, somebody who learns from every person. Meaning the wise person is not the guy that has all the answers. The wise person is the guy who's always listening, always receptive, doesn't think that they already know it and have all of the answers. You could be discussing someone who has much less knowledge, much less experience than you, but you understand that they're offering a different perspective. You understand that even just by being open and receptive, listening to what somebody else is saying, even if they're saying something that you technically know already, but your mind, your soul is going to be expanded. To be a chacham means to be open. It means to be receptive. It means to
Yeah.
listen much more than it means to have all the answers and to give and
Bas,
to teach.
when did the Haggadah, when was it formed? Like the actual written text and then put into a book? Like in what year and who did it?
That's a mystery. It's a mystery. There's a lot of
Interesting.
theories. If you're talking about the text of there's two things really. There's the Seder, meaning the actual structure, and the Seder, the order, the sequence in which we do all of the mitzvahs of the night. That's sort of dictated by halachic requirements, meaning we know that we tell the story before we eat the matzah, and we know that we eat the korban Pesach at the end, and we know that the maror goes out. The order is kind of dictated by the way things have to be done in relation one to another. But in terms of the text of the Haggadah itself, so who put it all together and when it was put together is a mystery. It's not known. There are
Wow.
most of the text of the Haggadah appears elsewhere. A lot of it is from the Mishnah. A lot of it is from different midrashim, from the Mechilta, from the Sifrei. But there are certain segments which it seems don't appear anywhere else other than in the Haggadah. And who tied it all together, who put it in this order, it's not entirely clear. There's some evidence that it must have been done at least towards the end of the Talmudic period, because the beginning of the Haggadah, where we say Avadim Hayinu Lapara b'Mitzrayim, that's discussed in the Talmud. Different opinions of how you actually answer the children's questions, and that's ascribed to different Talmudic sages. So the assumption must be then, okay, the Haggadah must have been put together after that time, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. There are certain things which clearly were added later, right? The Heilach Ma'anya, the opening couple of lines that we say, which are in Aramaic, clearly were written during a period of exile. The 4 questions, they don't all appear in the Mishnah, but there are different versions of the Mishnah with different numbers of questions, and we know there's a 5th question. There's a 5th question. On all other nights, we eat meat, either boiled, fried, or roasted. Tonight, we only eat roast meat. And that was a question which was only asked in the times of the Beis Hamikdash. We only eat roast meat because we're only eating the sacrificial meats, the korban Pesach and the korban Chagiga, the festival offering, which was which was eaten as sort of the main course. So that's clearly already from temple times. It's not clear. It's not clear. Like I said, most of it you have in other sources, in Midrashim, in Talmud Bavli, in Talmud Yerushalmi. But who put it all together? That is a mystery. I mean, I've heard theories Rabbi Eliezer is the author. I've heard theories that Rabbi Akiva is the author. Theories that it was only in the times of the Gaonim, which were the sages who were after the Talmudic period in Babylonia. But I can tell you this, the first complete Haggadah, meaning the first actual complete text of a Haggadah in order, is from the first ever Siddur, which is the Seder of Amram Gaon, who was from the Gaonim, so he, who lived approximately 1,000 or 1,100 years ago. So he had a version of the Haggadah, and then Sadia Gaon had a version of the Haggadah, then the Rambam had a version of the Haggadah, and those Haggadahs are very, very similar to what we have now.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I think we covered what we wanted to cover.
I think so. I mean, this is fun. I could go
Amazing.
for
Well, I mean, listen, if there's anyone watching from the community and you want to hop on, this isn't just like me, Rabbi Goose type of thing. I think that'd be cool for other people to hop on and ask you questions, and I'm happy to be the
Why, this is
producer
live?
behind the scenes. This isn't live. No, no, we're
No.
recording it. But I just think it'd be cool, like not just me ask you questions
No,
and to
I
interact
know.
with you, but other people.
I love I love being asked. I mean, for all my drushes about how important it is to ask questions, I love being asked
Yeah.
questions. It's my favorite thing.
And if people are watching this and you have any questions for Rabbi Guth or questions about the Torah Learning Center in general, you can leave it in a comment, which actually would help us push. I guess it helps it algorithmically, but we don't really care about that at this point. Or just if you have questions, we're happy to interact, and maybe we'll save those questions for the next time I record. And other than that, Rabbi Guth, looking forward to you coming to visit Pardes Chana before you make the move.
Yeah, we are super, super excited. It's going to be amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're really looking forward. And this was
awesome.
very fun.
Yeah,
This was an okay first crack at it.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sure we'll
yeah. It
get
will get
we'll get more
easier.
slick as time goes on.